Okay, good afternoon. Our speaker today is Fabio Castagna from INAF in Brera. Fabio graduated in statistics at Milano Bicocca. Then he started a PhD in informatics and mathematics at the University of Insubria, but also in close collaboration with INAF, and in particular with Stefano Andreon, particularly focusing on Monte Carlo Markov chain simulations. He has already finished the PhD, but still had to defend the thesis, if I understand correctly.
No, done it.
Ah, done it, sorry. Okay. Since you sent me the CV, you still have to defend, okay. And now he's a postdoc at Milano Brera, and he's involved in the statistical studies of cluster of galaxies, and also particularly towards Euclid. And please, I will give you a warning after 20 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I'm going to present you my research project that I conducted during my PhD at Insubria and that I'm working on currently with my postdoc at INAF Brera in close collaboration with Stefano Andreon. The title of the talk is a Bayesian Hierarchical Model for estimating the heterogeneity of pressure profiles within a population of galaxy clusters. So let me give a brief introduction and enter step by step into this issue. Let's start from galaxy clusters, which are the largest gravitationally bound structures in the world, in the universe. So it's interesting to investigate such objects in order to study the evolution of the universe at such large scales. The pressure profile is the target of our estimates. The pressure profile is simply the distribution of pressure within a galaxy cluster, and it is computed radially as a function of the radius. And why it is important to study the pressure profile? Because as well as the other thermodynamic properties like temperature, entropy, for example, it is available assets to investigate the science of such structures. And for example, the shape of a pressure profile can give us insight of for example, the presence of shock fronts in the galaxy clusters. Or another example of application is the use of the distribution of pressure to improve the estimation of cosmological parameters. So the pressure profile is not directly observable, but it can be reconstructed from the observation of the Sunyaev-Zel'dovich effect, which is a spectral distortion of the CMB radiation, and arises from the inverse Compton scattering of the photons. The SZ effect can be observed through radio telescopes, and in particular, in the last decades, the study of pressure profile from SZ observation constantly increased due to the huge increment of high resolution SZ survey and telescopes. As I said, the distribution of the pressure profile must be reconstructed from the observed data. In order to do that, I developed PreProfit, which is a tool, publicly available tool to estimate the pressure profile. And let's enter into it by a step-by-step description. First of all, I have to clarify that PreProfit follows a forward modeling approach, which means that we don't want to derive the best fit parameter of the pressure distribution from the observed data, but instead we infer certain sets of parameters of the pressure distribution and then evaluate the likelihood of the observed data, of observing that the observed data given the parameters that we have assumed. So at the very beginning, we need to assume a parametrical function for the pressure distribution, which in our case is a spline interpolation, but we are gonna explain more in detail later which kind of interpolation we adopted. At the second step, we have to switch from the three-dimensional radial profile of the pressure distribution. We need to project it to a three-dimensional map, so profile. So we need to apply a number transform, which includes an integration, and thus the computation starts being expensive. Subsequently, we need to take into account the systematics of the instrumentation that observed the clusters. And to do that, we need to pass through a three-dimensional convolution that takes into account the beam and the transfer function filtering. And this is done through a fast Fourier transform. So again, the computation is not so straightforward, let's say. At the end, we simply extract the radial profile of the observed surface brightness, and so that we can compare our estimated model with the observed data and compute the likelihood function. This whole estimation is based on Bayesian statistics, whose approach is to start from a prior knowledge of the parameter of interest, which is, in our case, is the parameter of the pressure distribution, and iteratively evaluate the probability through the likelihood function, the probability of observing those specific data given the set of parameters that we have assumed. So with a sampling algorithm, which is the MCMC, the Marcon-Chain Monte Carlo, we are able to constantly update our knowledge on the parameter, and finally, through the Bayes theorem, derive estimate our target distribution, which is the posterior knowledge of which are the parameters that best fit the observed data. What I've described so far is the estimation method for a single cluster of galaxy. And what we've done in our research project is to extend this method from single cluster to population of galaxy clusters. What are the consequences of this extension? First of all, the computational time increases dramatically because all the estimation procedure must be conducted for every cluster that is included in the population. So it means that we switch from a single likelihood on a single object to a joint likelihood that combines all the clusters that compose the population of objects. And then from a methodological point of view, such analysis requires to implement a Bayesian hierarchical model, which allows us to encompass organically the entire hierarchical structure of the population of galaxies, and in particular allows us to adequately estimate the statistical dispersion, the heterogeneity, the intrinsic scatter of the pressure across the population of objects. So in a Bayesian hierarchical model, we distinguish between two levels. The upper level is the population level, where we distinguish measure of the average pressure for the entire population, and the theta k, which is the intrinsic scatter. the K index refers to the knot of the spline interpolation. So it means that for every knot of the interpolation, we have a population average pressure with a related statistical dispersion measure, which is the theta, the sigma K. The lower level instead refers to the single object, the single galaxy clusters, and these measures descend from the upper level in the sense that we can see from the formula that the parameters depends on the upper ones. And here, of course, we have another index which refers to the ith cluster that compose the population.
Sorry, just for sake of clarity, are you analyzing only SZ data, right?
Sorry?
Are you analyzing only SZ data here?
Yeah. Yeah.
In which frequencies and which instrument are you using?
In the example that I'm going to show, we use the SPT data.
Only SPT?
Yeah.
With no combination with Planck that could be used?
No, at the moment, no, but I'm going to talk about it as a possible development. So in fact, here I'm going to show an application of this tool on real data. And the sample has been selected from the South Pole Telescope data, in particular from the SPTSZ survey. And we selected the object within a limited region of the plot that we have here. So we chose to restrict to redshift lower than 0.3 and masses upper than 410 to the 14 solar masses with a signal to noise ratio greater than 5, which sums up to 57 galaxy clusters.
So can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Why only below redshift?
Because as we can see from the next slide, which shows the distribution of the resolution of data, the cluster redshift, let's say that we have been quite conservative in deciding to choose highly resolute data with a high resolution. And in comparison with other works that evaluated the population multiple galaxy clusters that are shown in this plot, for example, Melen selected a very large number of objects which extend in terms of resolution quite below our sample, while the samples from the work of Pointcotto et al. And Sayers et al. Is quite similar to our sample.
If I understand from this, your requirement is that you have to resolve R500 with 5 radial beams, something like that. Or no?
I'm sorry.
I'm trying to interpret what's in the vertical axis. I see theta 500.
Yeah, that's the R500 expressed in the angular scales divided by the half width, half maximum of the instrument.
Okay, so you have to resolve it at least with 5 half width, half maximum, because I see the red point is not from 5. Okay.
Yeah. They are all over 5 in this plot. So yeah, it's a little disadvantage of our selection that we started from data with higher resolution to start for.
So basically, the choice was for a geometrical reason. You need to have enough beam. For this restricts the analysis. Okay.
Let me talk about the pressure profile parameterization. We decided to adopt restricted cubic splines modelization, which is a highly flexible method because it is characterized by a cubic interpolation in the innermost, in the intermediate regions between the innermost knot and the outermost knot, while at the extremities, the interpolation is linear. So such parameterization combines the elasticity of the cubic interpolation in the intermediate region, but avoids undesired twist of a cubic interpolation at the extremities where the radii which are basically unconstrained by the data.
So, sorry, for sake of clarity, you mean log linear?
Yeah.
Okay.
The knots placement is we decided to define it as a function of the characteristic radius in order to have a comparable measure for objects with different extents. And they are plotted on the x-axis of this plot.
Sorry, why 5 did you choose? Because it's a good compromise for computational accounts.
We tried some different numbers, or at least we tried to check that between two subsequent knots we have enough data not to be to have proper estimation, which is not the correlation is not due to having just one single data. But it's just a choice, not.
I was curious because you basically you are doing an even distribution linearly.
Yeah.
Whereas it is a sort of powerful, so you can do the same in logarithmic space.
Mm-hmm.
So you can sample even distribution in the logarithmic space instead of linear distribution. Because in this case, you are going to sample better power.
Yeah, but maybe the data that we work with were equally spaced in linear space, I guess. Yeah, no,
Okay.
if I remember correctly. So here we show comparison with results from other authors. Here we took an example of a single cluster and compared with a result from Sayers et al. And finally, here we have the result of the population estimate. I have to say that for the moment, for limited computational resources, we were limited to just 16 clusters. And here we can see the distribution of the population average pressure measure. And on the bottom plot, the intrinsic scatter, which is, of course, lower at the intermediate regions, which are more constrained by the data, and it constantly increases as far as we move from this intermediate region. Here we show a comparison of our work, of our estimate of the average and intrinsic scatter with the work from Girardin et al., which adopted a generalized Navarro-Franke-White modelization. And we can see how the scatter is approximately comparable. And we had constantly lower estimates. And I move to the next slide where we compare even with other results, the universal pressure profile from Arnaud et al. And other works from Pointe-Coteau-Melaine. And we are investigating the reason of such differences, which could be due to selection effects, but even the use of the mass, the characteristic mass adopted from the different works. So we are still working to better understand this comparison.
Sorry, one question. The P500 I see on the Y, and same for the virial radius. Is this the same definition for all these works? Or
it's a bit different. So we computed the P500 of each work according to the definition used for each auto.
So I try to understand, is the difference related to maybe the fitting procedure or more trivially because everybody is normalizing for slightly different choices?
Could be both things. We are working on this.
For instance, which IMF500 did you use?
We used we started from the SPT measures, but then we derived the R500 doing an integration of the data. I have not here the slide, but we started from that, but we not exactly those numbers. Later, if you want, we can see together. Here briefly, just a few diagnostic plots of the population level pressure estimates and the intrinsic scatter measures. And to conclude, I briefly give you an overview of the work that I've done during my PhD in computer science, which has to do with the development of the scalable MCMC computation. And the problem is, in general, is that in an MCMC algorithm, we need to compute several measures of the likelihood function. And in case of a very expensive likelihood function, the computation gets increasingly massive. So we tried to work on parallelizing the worker parts, while of course the iterative part must be kept sequential. And we adopted the serverless computing, which is a recent paradigm that emerged from the cloud computing approach. And in particular, we adopted the serverless function to execute the likelihood computation. And the result is plotted here, which is an interconnection of the functioning of an MCMC estimation within a serverless framework that we have developed using the AWS Amazon Web Service cloud platform. And in brief, just a few minutes, so I just say that here we have all the functioning on the MCMC, where with a system of queues and lambda function, we can handle the whole proceeding of carrying out the computation, updating the parameters. And this is using a serverless approach, we can take advantage of the little overhead that is guaranteed from the use of serverless functions. And this is can be appreciated from this plot. We worked with the likelihood function of approximately 100 seconds, and we saw that increasing on the x-axis, massively increasing the number of likelihood execution, the overhead, both in absolute, which is the blue curve, and in relative, which is the red curve, remains quite low. And I switch here, and here we performed an entire MCMC in two scenarios. The first one just as 10 worker or chains, and the second one has 10 times more workers. And the overall waiting time is approximately constant, and as we can see from the lower plot, the color stays almost vertical. So at approximately constant time, we can obtain the result from multiple chains. So the scalability of such a tool could be of great interest. for astrophysics, because of course, as we all know, we are entering the big data era of astrophysics. So it's something that it's interesting to work on. I just conclude with my last slide on what are the future developments of this work. First of all, we aim to extend the number of objects that compose the population of galaxy cluster that we aim to estimate. As I was mentioning before, we aim to combine data coming from multiple facilities, for example, taking advantage of ACT data. And then we aim in the future to switch to a multi-wavelength analysis that combines jointly, allows to jointly feed, for example, X-ray and SZ data, as we have already done for single cluster analysis. We aim to extend this work to a population of objects, and finally, possibly to add the weak lensing component as well to the analysis. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks. Questions for the speaker?
In curiosity, Florian Carusolet has implemented a very similar approach in reconstructing
Panko Chu.
Second.
Is it called Panko Chu, the tool?
Panko Chu. So what are the difference with respect to the code that you are using? Because also in that case, there is a sort of free-form reconstruction.
Yeah, the idea is similar. What we are trying to implement is the population of objects. So the Bayesian Hierarchical Model, I don't think it is possible to implement it with Panko Chu, as far as I know. I would say that is the main improvement, let's say.
You have a couple of technical questions. Can you go to the architectural scheme? I'm just curious about this. What is so if you want to build up this, you need to pay AWS. So how much does this thing cost, and what is the thing that costs more? The storage, the computation?
The storage actually not so much, because the most massive part is within the likelihood computation. So it is the computation.
And how much does it cost?
That's a very good question. And the clearest problem is that.
And the other question is very simple. What is the language that, since, I mean, computation time is, as I understand, one of the bottleneck. What is the language that you chose to do this?
Python.
Python, and so all the core things are done with NumPy.
But you mean in this project?
In this project, or in I mean, no, it is the same code that you have in GitHub, right?
Yeah, more or less.
So it is so the core analysis are done with NumPy basically. Okay.
Some of your clustering big samples are going to have maybe an undergoing merger, some asymmetries. Is this like put together in the fitting, or there are some flags or some data you ideally want to flag, or you don't? I don't know. You remove a sector of the cluster. How does it work if you have complex systems?
Yeah, it is a problem in general, because if you want to estimate an average measure of a population, it depends on how much homogeneous data do you want to have. So till now, we started with this criterion, but for example, we had to exclude 2 clusters that had some problems. Yeah, I think that it's a very good point that must be taken into account while performing a population analysis.
Okay, are there questions from the remote audience? It looks like not. Okay, so we can thank the speaker again.